And better late than never, welcome in to a Monday afternoon edition of the Chico Bormann Show right here on the Big Play Network. It is great to have you along. For those of you who may be new to the program, we do want to let you know that you can follow us on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. That's Chico Show CLE. We stream live 1 to 3, Monday through Friday. You can also find us on YouTube. Go there, type in the Chico Bormann Show, hit subscribe, and you're all set to go. All right, we are ready to go. A little bit tardy. You know, Boom, I don't know about you, but are you getting tired of these random dudes being in our studio at like every other Monday, it seems? You know, I poke my head in. I'm like, you guys doing some work on you guys painting the room? You guys, building something? Yeah, we should be out of your hair in no time, but which my hair, obviously, very long locks, as you well know. Bernie and Hanford, those two damn Bernie and Hanford. No, it's Bernie and Hanford, so that's all right. It's you're happy to come on a little tardy when it's Bernie Kosar or Hanford Dixon. Those are one of those problems. Like, yeah. You would have told me 30 years ago that's going to be an issue for you. You're going to be coming on late to shows because Bernie Kosar and Hanford Dixon were in your studio. I guess it's okay.
There are worse problems to have.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about coming in and trying to, be tough guy. Like, listen, I don't know who you guys think you are, but I wouldn't have been able to do it with a straight face. By the way, you know what's so cool about Hanford? And nothing against Bernie either, but what's so cool about Hanford is like you'll hear him bark, and you hear him on the show. You hear him bark, the Bernie Kosar show with Hanford Dixon. But like every time I would hear him out in the hallway, it was so cool because Hanford's the guy that basically invented the bark. Think about that. I mean, he just started randomly barking at guys. I think it was in practice, basically, like on the field. Their defense, obviously, the mid-'80s, they were no joke. And I mean, here we are. We've got a dog picture contest going on for the logo. To think that that's where it started. So if the guy that started the bark is in the studio, then I just kind of whimper away and say, "Boom, make sure those guys get out of here on time." All right, for God's sake.
I'll do what I can.
Put you. By the way, how was your weekend? Good weekend?
It was good. I was at a wedding last night. It was a quick turnaround. I was down in the old stomping grounds, Chico, Columbus, Ohio.
Oh boy, how many times did you get emotional? Oh, here's catfish biffs, and boy, I remember having some pizza. Oh God, boy, I can't go on. Boy, I could totally see you because you are very, and that's what we like about you. You're very sensitive, where I can be just a pain in the ass and an insensitive, son of a you-know-what. You're very sensitive, Boom. So, but I could see that. You on campus absolutely kind of losing your mind a little bit.
You know what the crazy thing about campus is the fact that it looks nothing like what it was like when I was there less than a decade ago.
Yep.
It's crazy. My dorm is no longer standing.
What was your dorm?
Blackburn. On North Campus. I know you're a South Campus guy.
You were a North Campus guy.
I wish I was on South Campus. I was envious of the South Campusers.
South Campus kind of got the bad, like, those are the party dorms.
That's the fun campus.
Little did they know that I was studying advanced calc till 4 a.m. on Thursdays and Fridays. And
sure you were.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, real quick on that. And by the way, we're going to get into this a little bit. We got some Guardians to talk about. Anthony Castrovitz, MLB.com, going to join us top of the hour at 2. First time that I was back on campus after everything, and things really started changing even in the late 90s. But I came in town in 2005. I've told you this story for the Ohio State-Texas game that was under the lights. Vince Young, and Troy Smith. But I think that game, Troy Smith, there was like a disciplinary issue, whatever. But anyway, it was an incredible game. But I remember, like, you're looking at all of these, what used to be like the rundown, hole-in-the-wall pubs, bars that you loved that were no longer there, and it was all high-rise buildings. Like, even Eddie George's bar, which used to, I'm guessing it's still on High Street. I don't know.
It was when I was there.
Okay. So, that was there. But everything, the best thing, though, is when I was in town for it. Actually, no, I take that back. This was 2 years later. I came down for a wedding. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mama's Pasta and Brew.
I always wanted to try that place.
Oh, it was awesome. Is
it gone?
They just recently demolished it.
Oh.
But the funniest part is, I didn't know, like, the sign was still there. It was still open, but I don't know if it's the same owner, Terry. Anybody listening that has been there, you absolutely know who Terry was. So Terry owned it, Mama's Pasta and Brew. It looked like a total hole in the wall, but it was one of those you just loved.
It was right off the alleyway, just off High Street. Right?
Like 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, fraternity, sorority row and all that. And everybody they'd pile in there. So I walk in there, and there's like one person in there just hanging out. Terry comes back from out of the kitchen. He's like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Buddy." And we start, I hug him, we start talking, and I was telling the girl I was with for the wedding, I'm like, "Yeah, this is where we used to go all the time," and whatever. He's like, "I think you still have a tab here." I go, "No, I don't. I mean, this is 7 years later, 8, 9, 10 years. 8 years later. Look it up. Me and my two roommates, it was under my roommate's name, but yeah, we owed like 55 something or another. So I had to, I had to settle up, but I felt so bad. But yeah, Mama's Pasta and Brew, rest in peace.
Now, Chico, I have to know, did you ever try the pasta there? Because I was always dying to, like, if you have pasta in the name, it's got to be good, right?
I can say here, okay, secret's out. The place is demolished now. The first time that I was aware or became aware, I felt like a kid when I found out that there may not, or, you find certain things out about holidays. I don't want to ruin in case we have a young audience. And when I found out that it was Stouffer's lasagna, I was like, no. Like, I had a buddy of mine that worked there in the kitchen, and he would kind of keep it hush-hush for the most part. But I always noticed there would be a little bit of a joke when it came to the lasagna. Like, if you'd say, "Oh, the lasagna is great," and they'd kind of smile. And then all of a sudden, like, I walked back there with them, and it was filled. It was Stouffer's lasagna. I'm like, no, that can't be.
That's not all they had, though, right?
And the rest of the I mean, it was great, but the lasagna was very, very good, and I assumed it was homemade. I thought old Terry was sweating bullets back there. He was, but it was to make sure that they had the, stock back there.
If you put pasta in the title of your establishment,
Mama's Pasta and Brew was the name of it, and it's just great title.
You got to have good pasta, man. And that's all I thought about when I was like, I always wanted to try that place. It's got pasta in the title. It's not too far from where I'm living.
It was just the best hole in the wall. That's all I can say. Like, you play darts up there, music's going. It was the best. Absolutely love it. But,
I'm bummed I never tried it.
Yeah, I was appalled when I found out it was Stouffer's and not Terry's homemade. But it was still good. Like, it wasn't like you could say, well, the food's not. It's still good, great. But then I became a big fan of Stouffer's. All right, 216-626-7901. 216-626-7901 as we get underway on this Monday. So went to my first Guardians game of the season, of the campaign. I usually hit about, I'd say, a dozen or so. Had tickets to another game earlier this year. It was rained and colded out. But went yesterday, and glad I did. The Guardians, Cal Quantrill was absolutely magnificent. Had a no-no into the seventh. Guardians get on top early and then hang on a 2-0 shutout. against Minnesota. They take 2 out of 3 from Minnesota, so they are now 2.5 games back of the Twins. The 9-game homestand continues. Tonight it'll be the Tigers in town. So we'll talk more about this with Anthony Castrovins later at 2 o'clock. But Bohm, I have decided, and I'm not saying it's like any kind of prediction because I think the bats are going to get going eventually. They will. And eventually Tristan McKenzie's going to get back, and, we'll see how it all plays out. I'm not saying they're going to win 90. I don't know. 90, 92, 85. I don't know. But what I do know is in Major League Baseball, in all professional sports, but in Major League Baseball, like, again, go back to last year, which was such an incredible season for so many reasons. The expectations, nobody had them winning 92. And then 17 guys making their Major League debut. I mean, we keep bringing it up, but you have to keep bringing it up because it's ludicrous. Like, to think that 17 guys made their Major League Baseball debut for the Guardians last year, and they still won 92 and won a series. Like, that blows my mind. Here's what I'm theorizing is kind of now the downfall of that. The book's out on some guys. The book's out on, and even towards the end of last year, the book started to come out a little bit on Oscar Gonzalez. Will Brennan is a guy, forget about even last year, like this year, the first week to 10 days of the season, remember he started the opener against Seattle, and it felt like every single at-bat Will Brennan had in the first, week or so, 2 weeks, even when he made an out, even if he struck out, it was like, wow, that was still a really good at-bat. And I'm not picking on Will Brennan, but Will Brennan is exactly kind of what I'm talking about. The example of a guy who's very, very young, bursts on the scene. He's going to be a good major league hitter, I think, for a long time. But the book's out. And now, like, he's having trouble with high fastballs. But now it's not even high fastballs, anything you throw him, because they put so much pressure on themselves. And so I just feel like this Guardians team. Now, the good news is, and it's great news, the Minnesota Twins, as I told you, with the loss yesterday for the Twins and losing 2 out of 3 to our Guardians, are only 2.5 games up. They're 19-16. Whereas you look at the other divisions, the Tampa Bay Rays, more on them in a moment. The Tampa Bay Rays are 28-7. I mean, everybody, the Baltimore Orioles are 22-12. Jays 21-14, Red Sox 21-15, Yankees. So every team in the East is above 500. Yankees bringing up the rear at 18-17. Rangers are 20-13 in the West, and you go around baseball. So clearly, not that it's any big revelation, but the Central's wide open, and it will be, I think, all year long. Minnesota has some great pitching, but I think it's now the adjustments to the adjustments for the young guys. And it's one of those things you're just going to have to live with. Like, Tito said it when Oscar Gonzalez went down, and now you've got Will Brennan and right, like, and he wasn't taking a shot at the front office at all, but he was just being, I thought, very sincere and very just candid. There ain't nobody else coming up. There's nobody else that's just crushing baseballs from the right side, or really anybody that you would think of that's going to fill that void. And so I know it's easy to say, oh, well, there's got to be somebody. No, there's not. And you're just going to kind of have to live with it. And Tito has really said as much. Like, these are our guys. This is what, this is where we're at right now. That's just how it's going to be. So, eventually they're going to come out of this funk. They only scored 2 runs yesterday, but luckily Cal Quantrill was just absolutely lights out. And, you got the Tigers coming in town. You say, well, the Tigers, you should beat up on them. Not so fast. Obviously, earlier this year, we saw what happened. Tigers are 15-18. They recently swept, I think it was the Blue Jays. So, I mean, it's wide open. It is wide open. But hopefully, by the time this homestand is over on Sunday, they've got 3 beginning tonight against Detroit, off day Thursday. Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout come in town for the Angels beginning Friday. Hopefully, they've kind of gotten some confidence with the bats. But It could be a while, and maybe some of these guys struggle all year. There are sophomore slumps. That's not it's become a cliche for a reason. And at the major league level, they find out what your weakness is. They're going to exploit the hell out of it, which is exactly, what some teams have done in this case.
Yeah, baseball is a very give and take sport where you can see a lot of guys get off to hot starts. But I think a very underrated quality, at least for like the common eye for baseball viewers, is adaptability. Because these adjustments are made so like countlessly throughout the course of a season. And so I think that it is going to take a lot of adaptability from these young guys.
They're going to have to change up adaptability. I like that.
They're going to have to change up some habits that maybe have worked for them for their entire baseball playing lives. And so it's interesting to ponder like how long of a process it could be to alter and tweak those habits and make them routine. So it is concerning, but at the same time, at this point, I would like to
There's
think...
the optimist. Here we go.
Yeah.
Boy, boom.
I would like to think that it's just a lot of... The fact that so many guys are slumping at once makes it all feel like so much worse.
Well, and certain guys, while Kwan's hitting, Jose is even. Even yesterday he had a couple at bats that were, just not vintage Jose. He'll come around too. The other thing is too, like Jose is not getting the protection. Now Josh Bell, I think, is coming around. Those guys, that's the thing. There's no margin for error with the guys that you are expecting to hit. There's no, hopefully, no, they've got to hit. They've got to get going because right now there are some young guys in that lineup, and I mentioned Will Brennan. There are other ones as well. But, Oscar's already down. Brennan's there. Arias is up. These guys are going to struggle. It's Major League Baseball. But now it's Major League Baseball where, Booney talks about it all the time on Wednesdays, like, these guys are constantly watching film and advanced scouting. They know exactly what to exploit. And I think the problem now, more than anything, we talk about bad habits. Some of it's that. Some of it's just discipline. And again, when you're a youngster, we'll ask Castro at 2 o'clock, but when you're a young guy and you're struggling, even if you're a veteran and you're struggling, you will get to a point where you start, oh, man, I normally wouldn't swing at that. Jose's done that already this year. But for young guys, like Brennan to me looks lost right now at the plate. He'll be good. I like the guy a lot. He'll be good. But I just don't know how long it's going to take this year. And you see that up and down the lineup, save for a few guys. Ahmed Rosario's got to get going. They all do. But you found a way to get 2 out of 3 from your division rival, from the team right in front of you. So they're 2.5 games back as the Tigers come to town tonight, beginning a three-game series there. I mentioned the Tampa Bay Rays. Last week, and I'm okay with guys having fun. Like the NFL, we get, you can't even stand up and say a few words without a penalty flag going, and it's gotten ridiculous to some degree. So this is not me just saying, it's not like it used to be. It's not that at all. Bat flips, okay. You're going to kind of take your time coming around the bases. Okay. You're going to admire some of your work. Well, okay. That's part of it. Last week, and now the Tampa Bay Rays are 28-7, far and away the best record in baseball. I just mentioned the AL East. They don't have any team below 500 or below. Tampa Bay Rays are 28-7. And the fact that the Baltimore Orioles, are 5.5 games back. So the Rays, and they do this every year. They have injuries. They lost Jeffrey Springs already. But they always find a way. And I know Kevin Cash and Tito are boys. Kevin Cash, I think we like him a lot here in Cleveland because, hey, if Tito likes him, we all like him. But for crying out loud, yesterday or 2 days ago. Was it yesterday? No, I think it was yesterday or Saturday. Randy Arozarena, who is one of the best young players in baseball. Like the Rays, you look at their lineup and you say, they don't really have a lot of star power. Well, Randy Arozarena is a star. He might not get all of and a few years ago, it was in the playoffs that he really became, that star. But, he might not be getting all of the attention. He might not be on SportsCenter. And, well, now he's on SportsCenter. But he might not be the talk of baseball. But he's that good. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He can run. He's phenomenal. So I say that to say this. Arozarena is a great player, just like Wander Franco last week. Great player, right? But you don't field a ground ball in the middle of a game, a real game. Not pepper, not before the game screwing around, not the All-Star game, a real regular season game. He fields a ground ball at short. He throws it, tosses it up in the air, catches it with his bare hand, throws it, okay, gets the out. It's just, it's awful. It's terrible. Like, don't do that. There's a line, and the Rays have now crossed it, in my mind, twice. Randy Arozarena hits a big home run. They had just gotten I think, cordoned off a section, and they named it, something in regards to Arozarena. And if he hit a home run, I think everybody in that section got free beer or something free. And he, of course, hits the home run. In hitting the home run, he's coming around third base. See, this is where it's going to benefit me to be on camera. All along, I've had to apologize. You guys have to look at this ugly mug for 2 hours a day. Like, if it were radio, I wouldn't be able to really but he comes around third base, and he literally stops. Doesn't, just really slow down. I mean, he comes to a dead stop. He crosses his arms and goes like this to the crowd. That's basically what it looked like. He's a little bit bigger than I am, a little more stronger. What are you doing? I mean, dude, what? Like I said, the bat flip, okay, fine. You take your time around the bases. Barry Bonds took a half hour, but, well, he was Barry Bonds. But you know what? Bonds sometimes got dotted because of it. Or, even worse, one of your teammates get dotted. It led to, Aaron Boone getting ejected because there wasn't Kevin Cash was upset there wasn't a warning that his guy got. And I love Kevin Cash. He says, well, this guy didn't get a warning. You know what? If you're going to be that brazen with it, then warning or not. Like, that's ridiculous. I love guys having fun. People are out there probably thinking, whatever, you're just looking. No, I'm not. I'm not screaming at the clouds going, damn it, bring it back to the 40. Not at all. That's not who I am. But you got to have a little bit of respect for the game, for the guy. Okay, yeah, you just showed the guy up. You hit a mammoth home run. You come around third and you stop, and what are you doing? And then, he gets dotted. He gets hit in the, if you're going to act like an ass, you're going to get hit in the ass. Maybe even a little bit higher. You might even get hit in the ribs. And I don't want to hear people saying, well, that's a bunch, that's ridiculous. I'm tired of the unwritten rules in baseball. And yeah, there's some unwritten rules, and yeah, some of them are archaic, and some of them shouldn't still be. But that's just the way it is. Love it or hate it, that's just the way. If you're going to pimp that bad, to that extent, if you're going to toss a ball up like you're, just getting grounders before the game, hey, guys, check this out. Catch. Bang. Oh, you still got him, Wander. Yeah, it's not in pregame, not warm-ups, not taking grounders, in a game. And then Arozarena follows with that. Kevin Cash, we love you because you and Tito are boys, Any friend of Tito is a friend of ours. But you got to say something to your boys. I mean, and don't tell them not to have fun. I don't want this to be Tony La Russa. But isn't there, am I wrong, or is there some sort of happy medium? Some sort of something that you can get to? Okay, well, you don't have to go this far, but you don't have to go this bad. We'll meet in the middle. I mean, bat flip and take forever, and even then you still might, but you don't stop and pose, for God's sake. I mean, no.
Chico, these shenanigans have gone too far. I will not tolerate such extreme lollygagging.
Boom. I don't appreciate your sarcasm because I know that's not heartfelt. Because you, again, being the sensitive guy you are, you're probably like, well, Chico, when I watch that, I just see two guys having fun. I don't see what the big deal is.
Okay. I was saying it in jest, but I do agree with you.
I don't think you do. I've been watching your facial expression the entire time that I was doing the Randy Rosarino. Rosarina. You know what I was thinking of is the Beefarino thing on Seinfeld with Rusty the Horse. I'm so keen-o for Beefarino. Fitting Keno for a king and queen-o. Yeah, that was horrible. Leave that on the floor.
But Chico, this is to me unprecedented levels of like trash talking, and maybe he was doing it to honor his little area in the stadium.
You already did that. Everybody's getting free brews, and you point. I mean, point to them. I don't care.
Yeah,
go around like you're rounding first. You're going into second. I think it was out in right field or wherever it was. You point at him. Okay, fine. I got no problem with that either. But you don't stop. You're already taking forever to get around the bases. You don't stop. Cross your arms and do like that. You see it in football. Like a guy will make a tackle after like a 14-yard gain and a first down's been made, and the DB will stand up just like, yeah, well, I did just move the chains. Yeah, but I hit you. Like, stop. And I don't even want to check Twitter right now. I don't. And I'm not. I am not someone that just does stuff for effect. Some guys in this town do that. That's not me. I'm pretty authentic. I'm fairly genuine. This really pisses me off. Like, and what I guess what makes me mad is then Kevin Cash or the rest of the Rays are like going after hitting our guys. What you expect them to do? I mean, there's a certain level of professionalism and certain level of having fun. Like I said, bat flip, point, do it. Fine. You don't Wander Franco, you don't Randy Rosarino, and those are their two stars, okay? Now, not that they don't have other stars. Shane McClanahan, you can say, is a star, and I mean they've got talent, but those are the two headline names that, quite frankly, at least in a Rosarina's case, I don't think gets enough pub because he plays in Tampa, right? Well, I can't help that. Now now he's making the headlines and making the highlight films and all that, but you don't want to make it that way. You just don't. And you're too good of a team. Like people like me who love baseball, I have too much respect for the Tampa Bay Rays. And like I said, Kevin Cash seems like a great guy. I can't say I've ever met him. But dude, if Tampa comes to town, all right, and Randy Rosarina hits one to Eagle Avenue, Larry Doby Way, right? It lands, let's say it lands at the Jim Thome statue. It lands right at Thome's feet. Admire it. Don't just keep jogging. Admire it. But you mean to tell me if he pulls that crap, that even Tito, who, pretty laid back for the most part, but he's fairly old school. Kevin's his boy. Somebody's going to dot somebody. It's just And somebody should. Otherwise, I'd be saying, well, hey, and that's where Booney last week, when he said, here's the problem with that. If you do that, it's not a matter of just you might get dot, your teammate might. So if I'm a teammate, I'm like, dude, I appreciate that you hit the mammoth home run, but I didn't really want to take one in the ribs for you. And that's where things kind of start to get out of control. Is it a huge deal? No, but I needed to get it off my chest because I saw that, and then I saw the subsequent reaction from the Rays when, going after our guys. I mean, and they didn't go headhunting. There's never, ever an excuse or reason to be headhunting with the baseball. But he hit him square in the ass. Well, you were being an ass. You should be hitting the ass. I think the next time might have been a little bit higher in the ribs. I mean, if that's the chance you take. You want to do it? Fine. Nobody's saying that you're going to get tossed out of the game for it. But if you think that the other team and the other pitcher or somebody isn't going to say, all right, we ain't dealing with that. I don't know.
Chico,
my Werther's original over there. Can I grab one of my Werther's original?
Chico, it reminds me of Josh Naylor rocking the baby. And to me,
I didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't like it either because it feels like you're asking for retaliation. And to me, like just stopping on that home run, that feels even worse. It's not only is it like taunting, trash talking, it disrupts the flow of a game in a sport that is implementing a pitch clock. And I think that flow and maintaining that flow is something that's becoming more and more crucial to what the MLB envisions.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can care less about that. I mean, yes, I love the rule changes. It's the fact that he literally posed. I'm going to, I'll tell you what, I don't know. I'm going to do this. I'm not necessarily excited. I'm hoping that I'm not getting killed on Twitter. But I have a feeling that there are going to be some people that don't like the fact that I'm, oh, one didn't even decide to go Twitter, just DM. Okay. That's all right. I'll deal with it. And maybe Castrovitz, hey, look, Anthony Castrovitz is coming up at the top of the hour. Maybe Castro says to me, Chico, you got to calm down. I mean, that's just baseball today. I don't think so, but we'll see what happens. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, I'm going to wipe the sweat out off of my brow and try to calm down, get these kids who are outside our windows here on the porch, get those kids off our porch, because God forbid they do that here, old man. And then we'll talk to Anthony Castrovitz. We will talk plenty of Guardians. We'll go around Major League Baseball, but I will definitely get his thoughts. And you don't want to miss it. Anthony Castrovitz, one of the best, I think the best with the puns. His pun game has been, I think it's still like the best 10 years running. And he just had a few. So we'll get into that and more with Castro when we come back. It is the Chico Bormann Show. More to come. Final hour right here on the Big Play Network. All righty, welcome back. The Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Network. It is a Monday. So glad to have you along. And, there was actually, Bohm, you will attest to this, there was actually 21 seconds on our pitch clock that was left in the break. And I said, scrap it because we've got Castrovitz coming on. I don't care. I don't pay attention to those, 20 seconds. If I say we got to come back because we got Castro, and damn it, we're coming back. Anthony Castrovitz, MLB.com. He's one of the best in the biz, and we love talk. We've had him. I actually had Anthony Castrovitz on, and he knows this story. Years and years and years ago, I had plenty of hair. He's always had plenty of hair. In Erie, Pennsylvania. That's how long Castro and I go back. But he joins us right now, and he is not here for business, baby. He's only here for pun, which we'll get to that in a moment as well. Castro, it is so great to see your lovely face. How you doing, buddy?
Likewise, Chico. We've come a long way since Erie. Look at the technological advancements in our conversation since then. Now we can see each other, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, good thing for me. I don't know if it's as good for you, and everybody else having to watch. But the one thing is, as I tell people, I have now given such hope to those out there that said, wow, my face, my ugly mug, are they going to really? If Chico's on here, well, obviously I know I can be okay on the camera. All right, let me just get to a few of these. Again, I always have to read a few of his latest puns, and he really is. His pun game is unbelievable. This one,
unbelievable.
The Cardinal, unbelievable. Boom, you all right?
He said pun-believable.
Pun-believable, yeah.
Pun-believable.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's how he rolls.
Let's do it right.
Benjamin Hokeman. I don't know who that is, but he says the booing is loud here at Busch, meaning Busch Stadium, St. Louis. And Anthony replied, St. Bouis, Boois. I liked it. Simple, but really good. The other one, he had, you guys may remember recently, I think it was last week or so, Chris Sale had a rough outing. He comes to the dugout and just starts wailing on the cooler. I mean, of course, never going to win that battle. But and Castro on his Twitter account, at Castrovitz, replies, cooler heads always prevail. Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, he's just – and my favorite, and I believe he let me see if this guy – real quick. I'm sorry. Let me just do some. Yeah, I think he's actually going on Wednesday. Yeah, the finale of the series with the Tigers is this Wednesday as the Guardians continue their homestand. Peyton Battenfield will be on the mound for the Guardians. And Castro, this one's really good. Love is always or only, what did you say? Love is always a Battenfield? Did I get a Pat Benatar reference?
Yeah, that was a. Well, I was going for whose song? It was Jordan Sparks, I believe, was a hit.
You liar!
I don't know,
it was
10 or 15 years ago.
You liar!
I was going for Why does love always feel like a battlefield? But in retrospect, I should have gone with the Pat Benatar.
Oh, so I actually punned. I gave you the wrong one. I tried to out-pun the pun
that's my own
master.
fault. I mean, Pat Benatar's, they're both hits, but Pat Benatar's is certainly the bigger hit of the two. So I kind of whiffed on that one.
Speaking of rock stars, the Boss was recently in town. Did you? Was that show number 41 for you? Were you able to?
No, it was 55.
55.
And but more importantly, it was number one for my daughters. My 5 and 8-year-old got to go to their first show. And ever since, Chico, all they want to do is listen to Bruce. So I have succeeded. I have nothing left to do as a father. I did my fatherly role for life.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here. I mean, that is the top of the mountain right there. You took your 5 and 8-year-old. Right. That is so well done. That is so well done. 55.
The 5-year-old, unfortunately, had both preschool and dance class that day prior to the concert, so she actually slept through the encores with all the house lights on and the music blaring, and she was fast asleep. But she enjoyed the show up until that point, and wants to listen to him ever since. So that's good.
We're talking to Anthony Castrovince, MLB.com. Also, you can find him on the MLB Network. Chime it in there. He's, as I said, one of the best in the business. Also, of course, don't forget that he does have the book out. Go ahead. What's the title of the book, which I have at home?
A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. And always seems to be relevant. It was just the other day we had Blake Snell of the Padres talking on air. He was being interviewed. He's in the dugout, and on the scoreboard they were showing WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus, which is a really good offensive stat, but it is a little confusing to most folks who aren't familiar with it. And he was asking the announcers, what is WRC plus? The announcers didn't know, and I'm like screaming at the screen, get my book and you'll be all set.
The announcers didn't know.
Blake Snell.
Wow.
No, even the announcer, that was what was most disappointing. A player or whatever, but that's not a new stat. That's one that we've been trotting out for quite a while, where it's a really good. You get the context of the league and the ballpark and everything to really understand a guy's full offensive contributions for a season.
And let me just say, before anyone said, "Oh my gosh, it's a whole book about it is." It's funnier than hell. Like you will laugh numerous times reading this book. It's not, again, it's Castro. I mean, this is the master of the pun. You've already heard some of the things he said in the last 2 or 3 minutes. So it's not going to be serious, and that's what makes the book so good. A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. All right. I don't know if there's any analytics per se that's going to maybe get the bats heated up all of a sudden for the Guardians. Castro, this is I was at the game yesterday. They take 2 out of 3 from the Twins, which is great. But I want to go back to last year when they had 17 major league 17 players make their major league debut. First of all, to start the season, I just said, hey, if you can identify some of these guys, a guy like Steven Kwan or whoever, and just know at the end of the season who you have moving forward or have a better idea, then if it's 500 baseball, great. They go and win 92 games because what the hell do I know? And postseason and all of that. With that, though, comes the book's out on guys like Oscar. The book's out on guys like Will Brennan. And I feel like, and you know this better than anybody, the scouting and they find a weakness. Brennan can't hit the high heater. They're just going to go and go and go. How much truth is there to that right now with this team? And is that something that could linger a while?
It could. I mean, the thing with the way they're built, there's kind of a fine line you walk where, last year they're slapping it around, they're getting on base, they're running wild, and that's really fun to watch. But just a little bit off of that, just a little bbit less getting on base, and it becomes kind of a mess. It's kind of hard to watch, and that's kind of what we've seen, especially been pronounced, the last few weeks. I think they have 1 home run in the last 7 games or something like that. They have 18 home runs on the season. It's not good when you have as many home runs as losses, at this, later stage of the season. So, it's just kind of the way they're built. It's on some level surprising because you did think or hope they could maintain the on-base ability and have even, take even more advantage of the new rules to, show even more speed. And they have done that when they've gotten on base. They've definitely taken advantage of the new rules. But, the power uptick you hoped that would come with the maturation of the young guys, and the addition of Josh Bell and Mike Zunino, who are both, the power hitters in their career, it just hasn't happened. They obviously don't have much power. So when you lower that on base just a little bit from last year, and it's more than a little bit, but I'm saying all it would take is a little bit to become a much different offense. And that's what we've seen. I think there's always that sophomore adjustment, even for the best players, you can see that, but they kind of have it going all over their lineup, and it's a tough thing to go through.
Yeah, that what you just said there at the end is exactly what I was thinking yesterday watching the game, is that it is something that's going through the lineup. And, it's early, and I'm usually the guy that, when Guardians, even back when Indians fans are calling in going, oh my gosh, send this guy down, fire this guy. Like, calm down. It's a 162 game season. But having said that, it can be really, really tough to watch. And right now, like, there's just not a whole lot of offense, a whole lot of guys just getting on base, period. And you hope that changes. Is there somebody, maybe one or two guys that you are, I don't know, legitimately concerned with that might, because Tito has said, look, and it wasn't a shot at the front office. He said, there's nobody else coming up. Like, these guys have to start hitting. Are there a couple guys that maybe you are a little more concerned with than others in this lineup?
Well, I think the most pointed concern, if you're going to be married to Ahmed Rosario as your number 2 hitter, a 250 on base percentage from your number 2 hitter is just not going to cut it. So that's probably the most pointed concern. And I think that lineup construction can be pretty overrated. It's something that fans, and media, we spew a lot of ink and discussion about, and sometimes it really doesn't matter in the long run. But that's your number 2 hitter. That's a pretty pronounced spot. And, I don't know if they have much better options. Miles Straw could bat there. He's had a decent season, certainly a better season than last year. Andres Jimenez is an option there, although he has not had a great offensive season either. But I would just say, Rosario's a more veteran guy. He's 27. He's a pending free agent. They really need to get him going. It's just a much different, it's much different looking offense when a guy like that is scuffling, particularly when he is batting in such a pronounced spot ahead of Jose Ramirez.
Tanner Bybee is on the bump tonight in that first game against the Tigers, first game of that 3-game series. He's been outstanding. Logan Allen, by the way, I caught your tweet about the percentage of guys named Logan and Allen, the fact that the Guardians have 2 of them. But those 2 guys, when you consider Savali's out, Plesac sent down, Tristan, we hope, is going to be back maybe by the end of the month or close to that. Those 2 guys have been a bright light. And again, not that it's shocking, because we've seen this with the pitching and the development of the pitching over the years. But, man, those 2 guys, they just continue to come and not just arrive and not just look like, okay, hey, no big deal, but they really, in the case of Bybee at times and Logan Allen, they've looked like, they're going to be tough to hit, and they've got legitimate stuff.
Yeah, Bybee, I don't think has walked anybody yet in 2 starts, so that just shows remarkable poise and command, in your first go through at the big league level. That's fantastic. So you hope that continues. And it's a familiar storyline, right, with this organization, where the pitching really carries them and keeps them competitive. And you did wonder, what the reserve situation would look like this year if the rotation took some hits. And lo and behold, it took some hits very early, before they even broke camp with Tristan McKenzie was a big one. And how quickly would they go to their very top end options, guys who were beginning the year at AA, but had the best, pure stuff in the system. And very quickly we're seeing it with Allen and Bybee. And, I don't think Gavin Williams would be far behind. So it's kind of, this is the wave that, a lot of people who are really immersed in the prospect world were really excited about. So we're going to see very quickly what these guys can deliver on a sustained basis at the major league level, just as a function of, what's gone on with McKenzie. McKenzie should be back, in the not too distant future. We'll see about Savali as well. Plesac kind of pitched himself out of the rotation. So here we are getting a look at the kids.
Anthony Kastrovitz, MLB.com, and, of course, the MLB Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Kastrovitz. He joins us here on the Chico Bormann Show on this Monday afternoon. Again, the Guardians taking 2 out of 3 from the Twins, now 2.5 back of Minnesota. Homestand continues with 3 against the Tigers beginning tonight, and then Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout come to town. Judging by what I've seen, and I think you and I have actually talked about this, I feel like everybody wants to find another story, and, well, this guy might be the better story, or this guy might be having the better. Castro, you've been covering the game a long time, and you've talked to people that have covered the game even longer and played even. Shohei Ohtani, there is no, and there's great players in the game, but to me, it's Shohei Ohtani, and then it's everybody else. These He's doing what you did this in Little League. You and Brian Dunmeyer would star in Euclid. You would throw a one hitter, and then you would hit a 3-run bomb for the Euclid Panthers. Shohei Ohtani's doing this in Major League Baseball.
I did not expect a Brian Dunmeyer reference today, so I could only hope to have the athletic youth career that Brian Dunmeyer had.
He was pretty good.
But yeah, it's really incredible because, and I don't like to say stuff like this because it's like, oh, especially if you're in the game or around players, but like, I just know how much the average starting pitcher puts into his week to perform at a high level. Yeah, I've seen the CC Sabathia, every fifth day, and what he does in the days in between that when he was becoming a Cy Young winner, and been around Corey Kluber at his height and seeing his routine and what it took for him to be Corey Kluber, 2-time Cy Young Award winner. So Shohei Ohtani is pitching at a Cy Young caliber level, which alone is a crazy amount of work and dedication and smarts and all kinds of stuff. And then, oh, by the way, he's grabbing a bat on the other days. And now his output offensively has not been as strong in the early part of the season. But, I mean, he's got a pretty sustained track record now over the last couple of years of something that people in baseball really didn't think this would work. Every team was interested in bringing him aboard. I think there was thought from a lot of people in the industry that at some point he would have to commit to one or the other just as a function of how the big leagues work, and it's different than Japan and yada yada yada. But man, he's made it work at an all-star caliber level. And what I respect most about him is he hasn't been afraid to showcase it. I mean, think about going to the all-star game the last couple of years and doing both, or being willing to do both. And this year performing in the World Baseball Classic ahead of a free agency that he could have $500-600 million on the line. And he was willing to, where some guys shy away from that because they just want to go through a regular spring training. He accepted that, embraced that opportunity, and played his heart out and played great and pitched in relief, which he hadn't even done at the big league level. So closed it out. He's just an incredible athlete, incredible talent, and so much respect for the game. He's one of a kind. There was all these comparisons to Babe Ruth when he first started doing this, but he's far surpassed that, because Babe Ruth only did the two-way thing for a very short period of time and was just not at this level in terms of being that far out ahead of everybody else. And so he's done it longer than Babe Ruth. He's done it better than Babe Ruth. He's his own thing now.
And as Steinbrenner said in Seinfeld, he had short little girl legs, right? Babe Ruth. So.
That's right.
I had to follow.
Right. Good scouting report by George there. Yeah.
You gave the yada yada yada, so I immediately went to Seinfeld. Castro. Right. The other thing about Shohei, and we'll move on here to this, but Angels come to town Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you say, well, okay, the Angels are going to move him at some point. Where's the destination play? I mean, right now they're 2 games out. Now it's very, very early in the season. I get that, but what do you do if you're Artie Moreno? If you're the Angels, if they're hanging around? I can't imagine that fan base if they traded him in the midst of a playoff run or trying to get to the postseason. That would sit well. Now, I know maybe they don't care as much out there, but you've been asked this, I'm sure, a ton. Like, where's he going to end up? We might be waiting until the end of the season before we find that out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot. They really. Last year at this time, they had one of the better records in baseball, I think, into June. And then just something like that, and completely fell apart. And that could happen again. And if they completely fall apart, sure, yeah, you have to entertain offers for Ohtani. But if you're within any mathematical realm of getting into the playoffs, you have to ride it out with him. That's just kind of where they put themselves. They didn't trade him last winter, so they did have I thought a pretty good winter in terms of just raising their floor a bit. It wasn't a splashy winter by any means, but if you have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani healthy, that's a pretty good floor, and you just needed some better depth, and they have that now. So I think they'll hold on to him, because the reality is, in baseball history, how many We've seen many trades involving superstars, and the overwhelming percentage of them, I think, go to the team that's getting the superstar in terms of, getting the better end of the deal. It's hard to get adequate value for a superstar player in a trade, let alone a freak, a unicorn like Shohei Ohtani. I don't know, how you begin to get the right value back for that. It would just mean so much more to them to go on a run and see how deep you can go. And who knows, maybe they are able to re-sign him when all is said and done. I think there's a lot of skepticism about that, but if you were going to take him into the season, you might as well see how far you could ride him.
Yeah, and as you've been saying all year long, watch out for the Oakland A's in that division too.
They're only it's amazing. They're only I think 13 back, and
Yeah.
you think about it, the A's are off to this historically bad pace, and they might lose 130 games. They're only 13 back in their division. The Yankees are above 500. They're 10 back in the AL East. So it kind of shows the difference in those two divisions right there.
Okay, so let's go to that division. And as you mentioned, the Yankees are bringing up the rear there in the American League East. They're 18-17. Red Sox above them, who they've gotten hot all of a sudden. Jays, Orioles are 22-12. And then there's Kevin Cash and the Tampa Bay Rays, 28-7. But here's the thing. All right, I went on a little rant earlier.
Okay.
I promise.
I love a good Chico rant.
I promise you. One thing, I would hope you would back me. There are some people in the business that, I'm going to do this for a fact. I really don't. But this one really has been irritating me for a couple of weeks now. So last week, Wander Franco does that little, in a game, not pregame, not, just messing around, in a game where he flips it, bare hand, catches it, gets him out. Okay, great. And I thought, that's Bush. I mean, come on, man. That's bad. Then a Rosarina, who I love. Like the guys, I mean, he's an incredible player. I tried to trade for him in fantasy recently and got turned down. Not that anybody cares about my fantasy team, but Randy Rosarina hits a bomb, comes around third base, and again, the beauty of the camera now, stops, not like just stops and goes something like, I don't know exactly what the facial expression was, but you get the gist. I mean, Castro, I bat flips okay, right? No problem. You even want to take a little bit of time to admire your work. Well, I mean, hey, come on. We've seen that before too, and whatever. But those two and a Rosarina stopping after hitting third, posing for the crowd, like we all love Kevin Cash because, like I said earlier, if Tito loves him, then we all love him. But for God's sake, man, you got to talk to these guys a little bit. Am I way off base? Am I old man yelling at the clouds, eating Werther's Originals? Like, how bad am I sounding right now?
Well, the Werther's Originals, I mean, those are awesome. So
Very
I don't
good
care
candy. Yeah,
how
very
old
good.
you are. I know that's kind of become a thing for old people. But I loved them when I was 10. Yeah, I mean, the Rays are feeling themselves, and if I'm Kevin Cash, I do want to keep that under control, because it can get out of hand, or it could, it could affect how opponents approach you, that kind of thing. But I don't know, man. As a fan, I really enjoyed that stuff.
Damn it, Castro.
So I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, so Wander Franco, we all made a big deal about that. Like, oh my God, like either just sheer amazement that he could do that at a major league level and retire a major league runner,
Or would do that at the
that
major
cool
league
flip,
level.
or would do that, yeah. And or people like yourself were just aghast that he would do it. But like to him, it just was no big deal. It was just so natural, and it just speaks to this is a guy who's a 22-year-old shortstop playing at a high level at the big league level, and has always played at a high level, and that just came so natural to him. That's what's so amazing about it. Randy Rosarino was obviously pimping that, and that's his nature as well. We've seen that guy step up on the big stage in the postseason and the World Baseball Classic. It's just his nature. So I don't know. I mean, we can't on the one hand say baseball is boring and it needs more personality, and then when you see stuff like that, get all hot and bothered. Moments like that are routine in the NFL and NBA, right? I mean, they just are. And I do think there's probably there's probably a limit to how much I could tolerate. I don't know what that is, but I just kind of laughed when I saw that stuff. It's just a team that's feeling itself, and shoot, man, if they're, what is it? What'd you just say? 28-7, whatever it is,
Yep.
they should be feeling themselves right now. But yeah, I mean, it is a fine line though. You don't want it to get too out of control because it could look bad when if
Like,
this
of
team
course somebody's going to get
if it all of a
dotted.
sudden goes. Yeah.
I'm always like, when somebody says, "Oh, I hate those unwritten rules that they talk about," and sometimes, yeah, they're a little bit archaic. But like, look, if somebody's gonna do that, you just know. Like, I'm not saying headhunt. There's no room in that. No room in the game for that. But if you're telling me that nobody's gonna get done, look, he acted like an ass. He got hit in the ass. I mean, that's kind of what it's. I like that. That it has to be that way. Somebody has to pay the price for that. I don't know.
It can happen. It can happen, and maybe it will happen for them. But so yeah, I don't know if you'll see that stuff if they rattle off 12 losses in a row. But yeah, the Rays are just on fire, man. They've been so fun to. They're so good in every facet of the game. They have their benches deep. They both run and hit for power. They play great defense. They always piece it together and have great pitching, even through injuries, which they've had already this year. So, just a really well built team.
So is now I'm thinking, and I'll let you go here in a minute, buddy. I know you have 5 and 8 year olds, and you're like, dude, come on. But is it a matter of, let's go back to Omar Vizquel? Now Omar never did that, but Omar would
Right.
barehand balls, and I've talked to other guys, barehand balls that you didn't need to barehand, and it was clearly a show off. Or his idol Aparicio, where he would kind of
Aparicio, yep.
bounce it off the heel of the glove. And so maybe because I'm blinded by my my homerism here with Omar and the Indians and all that stuff, was that? I mean, should that be considered just as egregious as Wander during the game?
I mean, it might have been if we had Twitter at that time. Things do get blown out of proportion. Like it used to be, like a cool moment just happened and you enjoy it for what it is. The people in the ballpark enjoy it for what it is, or watch on the broadcast, and then that was it. Now things can really quickly take on a life of their own, where when it gets broadcast to a wider spectrum of people, you get a wider spectrum of opinions about it. That's just the way it is. So there's good and bad that comes with that. I think it's good for baseball if it's generating conversation and more people are seeing this incredible talent that is Wander Franco, even if that's the way they're seeing it is through people talking about how much they love it or hate it. Ultimately, I think it's a good thing. Now there's more familiarity with a guy who plays for the Tampa Bay Rays, who, even when they're at their best, like right now, it's still the Tampa Bay Rays. Like they're only going to get so much attention. So on that level, I'm actually glad it's generated a lot of conversation, because at least now more people know who Wander Franco is if they didn't before.
All I can say in closing is that's cool if you started the St. Louis Cardinals on a win streak, but damn it, if it hurts the Buccos, who have already lost 7 in a row. But Bucco fever, you know it, Castro. When Bucco fever hits,
it's over.
You can't. Oh, it's over. Damn, that was so much fun.
I think they found the vaccine for Bucco fever. It was the Tampa Bay Rays. So we'll see. I mean, it could spread again. You never know when but I've covered baseball for a long time now, and I would still say that the absolute best, fan, atmosphere I've ever seen.
I know what you're going to say.
The Pirates' first wild card game in 2013 was unbelievable. It was a hockey atmosphere.
That was the Johnny Cueto, right?
Blackout. They all wore black. They were all lubed up because it was a night game, and they'd been tailgating all day, just as if it was a Steelers playoff game, and they really came ready. Yeah, with the Cueto chants, it was just a really awesome experience. So, and that it only took a generation of not making the playoffs to gear that up, but and hopefully it's not another generation before they make it. But that's a city that can get behind its teams when things are right.
Hopefully not another generation before Bob Nutting decides to pay somebody like Brian Reynolds too. That'd be nice.
No kidding.
Castro, I'm sorry to take up all this time, but it's been a while. You're one of my favorites, and always appreciate your time. Love the work, and keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, Chico. Thanks for having me, sir. Good to see you.
All right, you too. That is Anthony Castrovitz, again, MLB.com, MLB Network. So there you go. I really thought he was going to side with me, Bohm. I thought he was going to say, Chico, I'm kind of I kind of think the same way you do. But that's agreed. She's like, no, I really loved it as a fan.
I thought he raised some great points, but I feel like I have to imagine that there's no way Booney doesn't side with you on Wednesday here. I mean, if he had a bone to pick after the Wander incident.
Here's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what. We'll take a break. I'll come back. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Because he really does. Booney doesn't want to be labeled that guy. That doesn't mean that he holds anything back, but sometimes he does. Deep down, I know. Now, you say, he's got a side with. Deep down, I know he does. On the air Wednesday, I don't know if he's going to say it. I don't know if he might take the Castro and go, Chico, for God's sake, lighten up. My God. It's just a home run. All the guy did was after a home run. All right, we'll take a break. We come back, we'll play a little fair or foul. Michael Bohm edition. By the way, Bohm, the Birds, I don't know if they had a rough Cinco de Mayo, but they let it all out in your back window there on your car. I noticed when I was coming in.
Oh, you saw that, huh? I didn't even notice. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, looked like a whole flock of them had diarrhea. I thought I'd give you a heads up. All right, we'll be back with more only info you get here, kids, right here. Chico Bormann Show, right here on the Big Play Network. Welcome back. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Network. Follow us live on Twitter at Chico Show, I should say, CLE. Also on YouTube, Chico Bormann Show. Hit that subscribe button. Plenty of action over the weekend, including, we didn't even get to the Derby yet. Oh, man. I was really confident. And not that it's Ken's fault, but we'll blame Ken, as you call him, the Unabomber.
Good old Ted. Teddy K.
I was confident that Teddy K was on the Japanese horse and that it just didn't quite go his way. But that's all right. We've got Fair or Foul right now. A Monday Michael Bohm edition. Hello, Bohm.
Hello, Chico. I would like to start things off. We've been talking baseball all day, but I want to get to the NBA because there are some good matchups tonight. And most notably for me, in the Western Conference, we've got the Lakers hosting the Golden State Warriors. Of course, after a very convincing Game 3 victory for LeBron James and the LA Lakers. I would like to gauge your stance on this series. Fair or foul? Golden State does not win another game this series.
Ooh, wow. You know what? I'm going to go fair on that.
Ooh.
I will go fair on that. And the reason I say that is, I mean, I know Steph is Steph, right? But I feel like, and I admit to not really being a big Klay Thompson guy, and it all goes back to the, it's a man's game. Can't believe LeBron's crying. This is a man's game, and he's single-handedly, we should all be lining up to shake his hand if we see him at an airport, because he single-handedly gave them all the ammunition and him all the ammunition. But I don't know if I can trust. Can I trust the supporting cast around Steph Curry? No. And right now again, if Anthony Davis, I preface all of this, LeBron's going to be LeBron. He's going to show up, needs to stop shooting. But if Anthony Davis is healthy and playing like Anthony Davis can, that is a tough Lakers team to beat. And I know it's big if, but I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go fair on that. I think they don't take their foot off the gas these next couple of games.
Yeah, and look, it wouldn't shock me if Golden State comes out swinging, right, and all their big time shooters are hitting on all cylinders. I feel like that would be very that would be very on brand for Golden State. At the same time, it feels like LA has all the momentum in the series.
Yeah.
Now, this question just came to me here as you were last speaking. I want to ask you fair or foul because it's interesting with LeBron being in so late in his career, and this LeBron versus Steph matchup is obviously going to be one of the biggest storylines that LeBron has had throughout the course of his career. Fair or foul, now that this is late in LBJ's career, this series is more meaningful to LeBron than it is Steph.
That's a good question. I'm going to say foul, but I think you're on to something. I just think Steph is so, even though he's calm, cool, collected, inside that dude is burning a fire, and a fire is burning, and he wants this. There's no doubt he wants this. But, yeah, I think, who knows how much longer LeBron can go. I mean, it's amazing he's gone this long. And nobody's going to bet against him. And again, he's still playing at a pretty damn high level. What's interesting, and I heard something the other day, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Fair or foul, Bohm, LeBron's rivalry right now is more with the ghost of MJ than it is currently Steph Curry. Because I feel when everybody says, "Oh, this is LeBron and Steph head to head," yes, it is. I'm not downplaying it, but that for LeBron, everything goes with LeBron, MJ, LeBron, and nobody, for the most part, nobody really wants to give LeBron a whole lot of credit there. Fair or foul, LeBron's biggest rival is right now MJ and not Steph Curry.
You know what, Chico? I'm going to say fair on that. I think when you're talking about LeBron, especially in historical context, Steph Curry doesn't really come up. It's always the battle with MJ, and frankly, that's been I suppose, the ghost that he's been chasing his whole career. I mean, he came into the league with that level of hype where he was expected to be the next MJ, and then he didn't really do anything to disappoint those expectations, maybe only raise them in a lot of ways. So I do think that is fair to say, Chico, because when you look at LeBron as a player and Steph as a player, like the way they play the game stylistically, it just doesn't compare. It's apples to oranges. And it seems weird to associate them together in that context. Now, granted, this is probably like the biggest rivalry of LeBron's playing career. You know, all ghosts aside, for those of you who don't believe in the paranormal. But I think that this Golden State series is what LeBron is going to be remembered for in a lot of ways, but it's never going to overtake the conversation of MJ.
I mean, I will say this, just quickly, before we move on. Nobody really thought the Lakers were going to even make the postseason this year. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of it was, well, come on, LeBron's getting up there. Anthony Davis, he's going to stub his toe at least 8 times this year and be out for multiple weeks. But at the right time, and they've made some moves. A guy like D'Angelo Russell seems to fit. There's been it's not just LeBron and AD. Now, make no mistake, if AD goes in the tank, they're in trouble because LeBron needs him. But there's some of those the supporting cast is pretty darn good and very underrated, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is. I like how you mentioned, you brought up that the Lakers, they were slated to really not be in a good playoff position going into the postseason. And then when they snuck their way in, you suddenly hear a lot of people predicting the Lakers to go to the finals. And that's the LeBron factor. That's what he does. You can't doubt his potential.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to disagree somewhat. Yeah, some of it is LeBron, but I think at this point in his career, he can't do it by himself.
I agree.
And I think AD, I mean, I know we've said this, I've said this ad nauseum, but I'll say it again. Anthony Davis, when he's right and when he's playing his best basketball, he's a top 5 player. And I don't even think I don't even have to think about it. But again, you got to be available. Well, he's been available, and when he's going, you're right, you don't count out LeBron, but I also think that if AD is going to play at this level for a while, or at least for the remainder of the postseason, Lakers are going to be one tough team to oust.
Yeah, and look, obviously LeBron can't do it alone. He never could, frankly. Like, he never won a championship alone. He always started in Miami and then came back to Cleveland and got Kyrie and K-Love, and now out in LA with AD. But at the same time, it's that LeBron factor that I think makes them, I guess, like, playoff LeBron is dangerous for opposing teams.
I just feel like, I hear what you're saying. I just feel like people, when they're talking about this Lakers team, it's not so much, well, look out for LeBron. I think it's more, you know what? If Anthony Davis is going to play like that on top of LeBron, the Lakers, that's one hell of a 1-2 punch, not to mention the supporting cast. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to move on from the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference now, because this series between the Knicks and the Heat, it feels like the Heat have all the momentum, right? And I do want to ask you the same question. I feel like I know what you might say in regards to this series, but fair or foul, Knicks aren't winning another game in this series with Miami. And Miami leads at 2-1, by the way.
You know what? I'm going to say foul on that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Thibodeau factor there. I hear what you're saying, and I can't disagree with it. But, like, New York is shot. Have you seen what they're shooting in the playoffs from 3? 27% beyond the arc. Like, I don't know. Julius Randle, like, wow. I mean, he has. We can say he's banged up. I mean, hell, to some degree. Now, he had a legitimate ankle injury coming into the Cavs series. I get it. I'm not disputing that. But everybody's banged up. Julius Randle hasn't done a damn thing. And, Jalen Brunson, I mean, they cannot shoot the basketball. And, when you say, well, the Knicks are going to get physical, well, guess what? The Heat are also going to get as physical or more physical and have. So I hear what you're saying. I can't count out Tibbs for one more, but I think Miami's winning the series. And again, Tyler Herro goes out. I mean, hats off to Jimmy Butler too. He's wow. But he's got to stay healthy. He's got to be on the court.
And we were talking about LeBron in historical context. I think it's interesting to ponder where Jimmy Butler may be in historical context, because he is, I mean, as far as like players who rise to those big time occasions, Jimmy Butler is about as good as it gets in this modern NBA right now.
I've always felt like, and I've said this many times, and now it's not looking so good. I never felt like Butler, like when you talked about true number ones, like true go-to guys, Jimmy Butler's an incredible player. But believe it or not, like I always thought like, well, the other number ones, the other elite guys in the NBA, the go-to guys, the guys that, have to have the ball in their hands, I don't know if Jimmy Butler's on their level. I think Jimmy Butler's on their level. Like, and I think for a while it might have been warranted to say that, but now no longer. He's, wow. I mean, he is fun to watch. Really fun.
When he was with D Rose, I felt the exact same way. And sometimes that it takes being put in that position of being the guy and having to prove yourself to really reveal that side of you. And I think Jimmy Butler, to your point, has absolutely done that.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to the NFL now. Now, I saw a report suggesting that Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best prospect since my boy Calvin Johnson, Megatron, the man who made me cry when the Browns missed out on him.
And you'll be crying even harder when Marvin Harrison Jr. gets drafted. I
can mentally prepare myself at this point. I realize the Browns, they can't suck that bad to get him. And do they even have a first-round pick this year? No. Okay, so yeah, they're not going to suck that bad, let alone even have the pick.
Right.
Now, if a team that had if the Texans drafted, well, they traded their pick too. Did they trade the pick they got from the Browns?
No, the Texans will have the two number. Well, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a mock. I was looking at a mock draft. You're right. They traded one of those. The other one, because they had the mock draft that I recently saw. I don't know if it was McShay or Kuiper had Marvin Harrison Jr. going 1, and then I forget who it was going 2.
First overall for a receiver.
I take that back. Harrison Jr. going 2.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of who it was going 1, but yeah,
Caleb had to be Caleb
Williams. Yeah, but they just drafted C.J. Stroud. Would they? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, anyways, my question, as you might imagine, fair or foul.
Will Marvin Harrison
Jr. is the best prospect since Megatron.
Yeah. I'm not just saying that because he's Ohio State. Boom, yes. But me, I'm not saying think about it. Joe Klatt. Joe Klatt's pretty right down. He's not a Big Ten guy. He played his college ball at Colorado, right? And I've always thought of Joe Klatt as really good at his job, very objective. You remember some of the Ohio State games he's doing at the end of the year. He's like, folks, this is the best player on the field. He's not even eligible for the draft coming up. And furthermore said, I feel like if he was playing on Sundays right now, is he going to dominate? No. Would he be overwhelmed? Would he? No. And he's still getting better. And the thing is the talent, the physical talent is incredible, right? But then you pair in a couple other things. The pedigree, we're talking about horse racing, the bloodlines, not too bad. Marvin Harrison Sr. And then on top of that, he works like his dad. That's all he does is trying to get better. And you talk about that with 6'4", 215, 220 pounds. Oh my God, he's gonna be a nightmare for many, many teams for many, many years to come.
Yeah, if he wound up going to whatever team has that Browns first round pick, I think I would cry. I think that would be fair. Certainly not foul. But I digress. And anyway, Chico, now I wanted to ask you because I saw an interesting report regarding the Ravens. Now, of course, they had the contract dispute with quarterback Lamar Jackson. wound up inking him right around draft time, got the deal done, right before the draft, I should say. I saw an interesting report courtesy of Dov Kleinman saying, and this originated from Jeremy Fowler at ESPN.
Good source.
The Ravens were strongly considering drafting Will Levis in the first round had things stalled with Lamar Jackson. So I want to ask you if you buy this report, fair or foul. The Ravens would have drafted Lamar Jackson they did draft Lamar Jackson in the first round. They would have drafted Will Levis in the first round this year had things stalled.
Where did they pick again? Where were they at?
Somewhere towards the end of the first.
Foul. I think Will Levis was one big, he felt, and we fall for this every year, that, C.J. Stroud's in a free fall, and that was real. I mean, the whole, cognitive test, whatever the hell it was that was supposedly keeping him back. But I also think the Will Levis on the other side of the coin of just, this guy's skyrocket. Why? Because he's big and strong? Like, yeah, I mean, that's a nice. Those are nice qualities to have for a quarterback heading to the NFL, but I don't buy that. I mean, that's an organization that I think is too smart. No, they wouldn't have drafted Will Levis. No way.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chico. I don't buy it. Levis I don't think he's the guy, but I want to move on to one more here on this Monday edition of Fair or Foul this week.
Yeah.
Here on the Chico Bormann Show. I don't know how much of that series last night you saw between the Phoenix Suns and Denver Nuggets. There was a bit of an incident that occurred. A fracas.
A fracas.
A kerfuffle,
Look
if you will.
At you breaking out fracas. And not the kerfuffle. Fracas I love. That's well done. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chico. Yeah. So I'll rule out any kerfuffles moving forward here on the Chico Bormann Show. But Matt Ishbia, Dan Gilbert's arch nemesis, I might just toss that in there, owner of the Suns, he, I guess, took a weak elbow from Nikola Jokic.
Was that a flop or what?
It was absolutely a flop, and that is not the question of here on Fair or Foul. What I want to ask you is, was the flop fair or foul?
Was the flop foul?
You think so? I mean, the ways that could really ignite a fan base, I feel like when you see an owner putting a little flair into this fracas with a guy like Jokic.
No.
You don't think it's going to light a fire under the fans?
Here's the thing. If it is a legit, like he wasn't flopping, and it was like, wow, you kind of pushed him a little, then yeah, but, I mean, you look at he looks ridiculous. Now, maybe it gets him going. I don't know. I don't think so. But, I mean, it ruined it. Like, it could have been, and I think more would have been made if he didn't flop than the fact that he did, because then it looks so dumb. He looks so ridiculous that it's like, it kind of loses the steam it had or would have had.
Okay, so quick follow-up. Fair or foul, this is going to hurt Matt Ishbia's, I guess, popularity, approval rating.
Foul. I don't think so. I mean, I think the fans are going to be fired up anyway. You know what I mean? We're talking postseason, right? But I don't think, if you're looking for an owner to flop to get your fans riled up, I'll go. But the flop itself was so terrible. By the way, a couple things. Do you have another one?
No, I was just going to say that could be a fun little halftime bit. Just have your owner take a flop on the court.
That is fair or foul on this Monday. No, it's good. You did a very, very good job today, Boom. Couple things. We didn't even mention Devin Booker. Boom. We've seen many guys get hot, right? And I mean, that third quarter with Devin Booker, I mean, I think he finished for the game like 14 of 18 from the floor. I mean, he could not miss. That's one of the hottest heaters I've ever seen in my life. I mean, unbelievable. So I couldn't have the show, and we got on a little bit late. We talked a lot of baseball, but Devin Booker That was incredible. Absolutely, positively amazing. The heater that he got on there in the third to give him the lead.
To have that special of a performance, and then, oh, by the way, KD also racking up just as many points as you.
And oh, by the way,
you're not stopping that.
Jokic have like 53 or something. I mean, but Booker was, he was amazing. And then final thing before we get out of here, you mentioned Dan Gilbert. Our sincere condolences, thoughts, and prayers, obviously, with Dan and his family. Everybody fell in love with Nick Gilbert from the the draft and whatnot, but obviously we all knew that he was sick. We didn't know the genetic condition. We didn't know exactly how much longer he had to live. Thankfully, he did have some years after that draft. But the one thing that I come away with saying is just that Dan Gilbert has done extremely well for himself. Obviously, there's no amount of money, there's no amount of fame that can even begin to touch that loss, I'm sure. And I'm sure they're hurting big time. And just, obviously, their city, Cleveland, Cavs fans, everybody, though, you really feel for that. And I know he's probably hurting right now. So thoughts and prayers to the Gilbert family. All right, that is going to do it for this Monday afternoon of the Chico Bormann Show. Back with you again tomorrow. Going to be talking a lot more NBA tomorrow. Also got some Brown stuff we want to hit on as well, unless Randy Rosarina and Wander Franco decide to pimp something else here in the next day or two. But so we'll have that going on. Also, thanks to Anthony Kastrovitz, MLB.com. He joined us earlier and was vintage Anthony Kastrovitz. Don't forget, tonight, 9 o'clock, the Reflog Show. God only knows what they'll be talking about. Maybe some ponies. Maybe a disappointment by the Japanese horse that we all thought might do it. But it's Mage. Down the stretch, they came, and Mage overtook 2 fills. Until tomorrow at 1 o'clock, folks, have a great night, everybody.